In many of the parishes that I've lived in, the parish and the rectory have been in the older parts of town. So not unlike where we're at right now, there was, the usual gridding out of the roads, but an older enough design that there was alleyways as well. So, you have the property, the house or the church, wherever on the front, and then behind it would be an alley. And some of the ways that towns get split up, sometimes the alleys go all the way through and sometimes they don't. So I lived in a parish where we had a church that was separated from the hall, and so the hall was surrounded by a parking lot. And the people would try to cut through the alleyway across the street from the parish property. And so inevitably I'd be watching people show up all kinds of hours, day and night, and they start pulling into the parking lot thinking, well, this alley goes all the way through. And instead, they found themselves in this dead end of a church parking lot. So the only thing they could do was, usually they would just continue going, and then they realized, well, if I could take a right, I can go through this parking lot. Well, the first thing that happens is they're off by a half block, so who knows how lost some people got. But this parking lot had a little bit of a hill at the end of it that dumped out into the road. And so I always found it interesting to watch people do this in the winter. And even though the parking lot would be plowed, sometimes there'd still be some snow or ice, and say, well, I hope they make it okay going down that hill onto the road, because obviously they knew where they were coming from, they knew where they were trying to go, but they didn't know how to get there. And I think that oftentimes describes for us our journey in life. That sometimes, well, we usually have a sense, maybe not even, of where we're coming from. Maybe we have a sense of where we're going, but oftentimes we're not sure how to get there. And I bring this up because at the beginning of this calendar year, yes, we've been a good month or so into our church year, but oftentimes in the calendar year, it is a time people like to step back and take a little time for reflection. Where have I been, especially in the past year? Where am I going in this new year? And how in the world am I going to get there? I think there's an interesting way to see this story of the Epiphany that might give us some clue about that in our life, because really we're talking about a bit of an assessment, a picture of where we're at in our faith journey. And so that's through the gifts of the Magi. So the first gift is the gift of gold, and that can symbolize all the richness of goods of the earth. That's almost considered a sign of wealth. And that gold is about things of this world. Then incense is used, that represents the divine. And the divine, in a sense, is our destiny. So we start from this world, but we're not meant for this world. And then the myrrh, which is an added detail that is not found from the prophets, is Matthew signaling to us that, particularly in reference to Jesus, who's being given homage, that's the spices and the oils that are used for burial. So this is a little prelude to Jesus's death, but also, of course, then his resurrection. And so for us, I think oftentimes when we're thinking about what's going on in our life, we're usually thinking about, what have I done and what am I going to do? What have we done and what are we going to do? And first of all, I think there's a universal application to this, because the manifestation of Jesus being revealed to these foreigners is a reminder that Christ came to save all humanity, not just a select few. So this is applicable for all of us. And I'd like to build off of some words as we come to the end of our Jubilee year, this year of hope, that a couple months ago our new Pope, Pope Leo, was talking about, and it was the difference between having hope and having optimism. And he made this helpful distinction, because he said in optimism, we have positive thoughts about how things could be, but inevitably, because a lot of that's just in our head, and might be manifested in some of our own action, but there's something that always disappoints, something that always can't be fully fulfilled. And he says, true hope is placed in the one in whom we have all of our desires. And just as these Magi had a desire, they didn't even know what it was about, but it moved them. What was the destiny of their journey? It wasn't a place. It was a person. It was the person of Jesus. And when we place our hope in Jesus, then we find the fulfillment of all our desires. And so then we know the way to get to where we want to go. We know our destiny, and we even know our origin, since Christ was there from the beginning of all creation, including the creation of our own lives. And so here's my suggestion for Epiphany, especially at the beginning of our calendar year, is that when we look back, take a good look back at the past year and ask yourself the question, not what happened or what we accomplished, but where was Jesus in my life? Which might be a clue of what's going on right now and how Jesus can help us to move forward and where Jesus is taking us into this new year. And the myrrh part is that when we allow Jesus to be a part of our journey, there are certain things that will be new and different, and we might have to die a little bit to the past. Because the Magi found out that they had to go back home, but by a different way. So that was their little bit of something that had to be different, had to die from the old way of doing things and find a new way forward. And when we do that with Jesus, that's what we're going to expect. There might be some new ways that we do our life together, especially in our relationships. But when we allow Jesus to be the origin, the destiny, and the way we live our lives, then this is how we'll find true fulfillment in our life. And so on this Epiphany, let us continue to pay him homage, to see Jesus as the purpose for our journey. And then in him, we won't just maybe have a good year optimistically, but we'll go into this new year full of true hope.